Hello and welcome back to another episode of Your Pennsylvania Dutch Minute. I got another viewer request coming at you. And this one I'm going to read, I copied some of the email message that I got from a viewer. So let's take a look at that. The viewer said, I was involved in a little conversation about PA Dutch, and the other person wondered why all the PA Dutch words she knew from growing up were quote-unquote negative. Words like Greksen, Rutschen, Brutzen, Struvely, Verhuddel. She wondered why we never heard any praise, probably coming from parents and grandparents. Now, of course, this is a certain generation of kids that were raised in the United States, or, in Pennsylvania Dutch country. My friend, the viewer, said in the conversation, quote, I said that growing up in the 50s and 60s, we weren't praised for every little thing we did like kids are now. Not that that is a bad thing, unquote. So it's true. When we think about the generation of kids that were raised probably in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, there was this idea that we praise kids. Oh, you're doing a great job. Look how hard you're working. As a teacher, I say that stuff all the time to encourage them to keep working and work harder. But there was an entire couple, more than one generation of Pennsylvania Dutch kids that were raised with parents that probably were World War II generation or, lived through the Depression, where the thought of praising a kid every time they did the right thing or did something just didn't compute for them. So we did have kids that were, we had generations of kids raised that weren't constantly hearing things like, oh, you're such a smart little kid, or, oh, you really look pretty today. And there's that generational difference because kids today now, of course, it is how a lot of them are raised, hearing those things. And you can argue whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not going to do that. But the point is, the person then asked, well, can I teach us how to say some compliments so that if I'm working with my grandchildren or my own children, instead of me being that cold that cold parent that's like, just do it because you're supposed to do it, blah, blah, blah. I want to be able to say, oh, you're doing a really nice job, or you are so patient. And the viewer wrote in and said, give me just a couple of phrases like that I can use with my grandkids or my children so that I can give them some praise. I want to praise them, but I want to do it in Pennsylvania Dutch. So I thought, absolutely. So let's go. Let's look at some Pennsylvania Dutch phrases here to give some praise to children, or it doesn't have to be children. You can use with as adults too. All right, so the very first one, if you were saying to somebody, what a good job you're doing. Think about when we say that in English. Actually, in Pennsylvania Dutch, we wouldn't say what a good job. We would just say you are doing a good job, and that is du doest so en goede chop. Du doest so en goede chop. You want to tell someone, a little kid, oh, you are so patient. You're sitting at the doctor's office, waiting, and the kid's actually sitting there and not running all over the place, bothering everybody else. You want to say, you know what? You are so patient. That phrase, du bist so geduldig. Du bist so geduldig. Your son or daughter, your grandson or granddaughter brought home a report card and they knocked it out of the park. All A's, all pluses, whatever the report card says. You want to say, you are so smart. Here's that phrase. Du bist so gescheit. Du bist so gescheit. You want to compliment somebody on how they look. For example, we had the word earlier, struvely, when someone's hair was all messed up. What if you wanted to say, oh, your hair looks so nice? Well, how would we say that? Die Haar guckt so schee. Die Haar guckt so schee. And along those lines, what if you just wanted to compliment somebody like, oh, what pretty eyes you have, what a pretty smile you have, what a pretty dress you're wearing. It's starting to sound a little bit like Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. Oh, what pretty eyes you have, blah, blah, blah. But here we go. So I broke them up into the three that the person asked me specifically to say. So you would start off with, for any one of these, no matter which one you want to say, was fa. And then here we'd have the ... And here's where you'd insert whatever you wanted to compliment the person on. So if we wanted to say pretty eyes, schöne Augen. Schöne Augen. Or let's say you wanted to say a pretty smile. En schöne Schmunzle. En schöne Schmunzle. Or a pretty dress. En schöne Frack. En schöne Frack. And then you would end the statement with du hast. So if you wanted to say, oh, what pretty eyes you have, was för schöna ögon du hast. Was för schöna ögon du hast. Now, you might also hear some seekers flip the last two words and say, was för schöna ögon hast du. Was för schöna ögon hast du. But either way is fine. You'll be understood. Now, if you want to say something other than that, you just insert whatever you wanted to say. Oh, you have a pretty coat, or you have insert whatever. Look up that word if you don't know it and insert it into that phrase, that system. I think it's good to give compliments. Am I constantly praising my own children? No. Do I praise them from time to time? Yes. But I also know they understand. My kids also know that not everything's based on praise, but whatever your parenting style is, doesn't matter. I think we can give praise. I think we should be giving praises, in certain instances, of course. It's just part of being kind, right? So use these phrases. If you have questions, of course, pop them in the chat down below, and practice your Pennsylvania Dutch. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, do it, as we'd say in Pennsylvania Dutch, do it. And tell your friends about what we're doing here. Tell them, hey, check out this guy's website. Check out this guy's YouTube channel. We're doing great stuff learning Pennsylvania Dutch culture and language and history, and all these good things are happening here. That's how we're going to get the gospel of Pennsylvania Dutch out there among the masses. But until next time, keep practicing your Pennsylvania Dutch, and Max gut.
Max gut.